welcome to today's episode of That BS podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lisa, and today's topic we are talking about is put the power of intuition to work for you. Please remember to visit my YouTube channel at the BS Boss, like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to my YouTube channel at the BS Boss and make sure you hit the bell so that way you know anytime I upload, go live, or post anything on the YouTube channel. I would so appreciate that. The Pew Research has determined that if you don't ask, people won't do it, right? So that's why I ask on every episode that you like, share, and subscribe on my YouTube channel at the BS Boss. And a colloquialism or ebonics, whatever you want to call it, closed mouth don't get fed, right? So I am putting it out there to please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel at the BS Boss. And you can also catch past episodes of that BS podcast. And no, I'm not talking about bull shenanigans, but belief systems, because this is the safe space where we are re-engineering belief systems to transform life's obstacles into opportunities successfully, right? And it's not magic, it takes time, it takes effort. So let's jump into today's discussion or blog post. Put the power of intuition to work for you. And I consider intuition is that small, still voice. I call it Holy Spirit on the inside of me, but it is definitely the small, still voice. And oftentimes, in order to even hear it, you have to be in a woo-saw kind of space most of the time because it's in a whisper. That still small voice whispers. By time it's a holler, it's a yell, it's a shout, it's a scream, it is because we have ignored the whisper so long that we're in a position or posture or about to make a horrible mistake. And then we get the holler, the scream, and the holler. So, intuition, that still small voice, Holy Spirit, is the reason that you know more than you think you do. Once you recognize how much of your mental activity takes place subconsciously on a deep spiritual level, you can make better use of the knowledge and abilities you already possess. I am a firm believer that when God created us, He created us with everything that we need. Each individual needs something unique and different on the inside of us. So we lack nothing. We just have to tap into the right resources because God is the source, but the right resources in order to cultivate, awaken, aliven, shake up what's on the inside of us. And that's what the intuition, the still small voice and Holy Spirit does. The following are strategies for finding a healthy balance between critical thinking and gut feelings. Critical thinking and gut feelings. So, out of my 36-year federal career, most of that has been in leadership, has been in management, and most of that has been in the financial management field. So although I learned skills, accounting and budget formulation and execution and justification and all of that, spreadsheets, numbers, dollars, all of those things, right? And the math has to math at the end of the day. 1+1 is 2 all day, every day. It doesn't matter where you go, what country you go into. 1+1 is 2, right? But in managing resources, other people's and your own, there is also an element that isn't often discussed, which is called the gut. I call it my sha na na, right? And being in finance, I always had to work at least a 3 year, minimum 3 year window, typically 3 to 5, but a minimum 3 year window. So I had to work on the current year, which is the year that we're actually in and executing and spending resources. I had to work in one future year in terms of justifying and making the case for what we needed the next year. And then I had to work in one plus two. We call it the budget year plus one, budget year plus two. And that's that third year with projecting where we may be, right? What we may need based on what's happening today, based on who's going to be in the White House, based on the political agenda. All these other contributing factors had to go into these numbers. So I had to think, when I tell you it's an art and a science that I absolutely love. You see how I just lit up how that I absolutely love. And studying the tea leaves and patterns and history and and it's somewhat an occupational hazard that I've done this for so long because I recognize patterns quickly, right? Very, very quickly. So it's not just the skill set and the science, the mathematics of it all, but it's also a gut instinct. That is implementing and making the power of intuition work for you. It's the same in life. You have skill set, talents, and giftings, but you also got to sprinkle a little sha na na on there. What is your gut telling you? So I'm going to share with you 7 ways that relying on intuition in your general routine looks like. And then I'm going to share with you 5 ways of relying on your intuition in specific circumstances. So, general routine, number 1, acknowledge the role of intuition, of the still small voice. You empower yourself when you do that. Cognitive science increasingly acknowledges the influence of our hunches on our thoughts and behavior. You might think you're making rational decisions, 1 + 1 = 2, but often you're operating on autopilot. Consider the times you've driven home out of habit while lost in thought about something else. This recognition can boost your confidence in your decision making abilities. Number 2, challenge gender stereotypes. Even experts are divided about whether women have a stronger intuition versus men. Many studies suggest that women are more sensitive to emotional cues in general, but individuals vary widely in their abilities. I know as a mother, it's like mama bear instincts kick in often. And that's how I live and probably why I take care of a lot of folks, right? Number 3, look for connections. Look for connections. I call them patterns. Your intuitions or the small voices are most reliable in the areas where you have the most experience and expertise. Study a situation in terms of its similarities to something you've handled before and look for ways to categorize it. Patterns, history. I think about that where God is concerned, right? I've got history with God. God's got a good track record with me. Does everything work out the way that I think it should? Absolutely not. But ultimately, does it work out to my benefit? Absolutely, it does. So look for the patterns. Number 4, train at making snap decisions. I call them fully informed, educated decisions and judgments. Gut feelings enable you to respond quickly when necessary. When the stakes are low, practice building up your confidence by deciding things quickly, like what to eat for dinner or which movie to see. That'll build up that muscle, that gut instinct muscle. Number 5, nurture your sense of curiosity. Ooh, always be curious. Those curious about others are often the best judges of character. Try putting yourself in someone else's shoes to understand the reasoning behind their conduct. And that goes back to what I was saying in terms of the finance community and the budget and finance community is that oftentimes we have to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, look at their history, look at their patterns, look at what they're discussing in order to determine what's important to them and what's likely to pass or be approved based on those parameters. Number 6, put your emotions in perspective. Honey, reel it in. Reel it in. We often exaggerate how much external events will affect us. Whether you win the lottery or lose a bet, you'll soon return to being as happy as you ever were. So listen to your feelings without getting carried away. It's nothing wrong with emotions. Let me repeat. Absolutely, positively, nothing wrong with emotions. But there is something wrong with being so led by our emotions that we can't make sound decisions. We can't make fully informed and educated decisions. We can't hear the still small voice. And number 7, being realistic about your limitations is crucial. It's easy to see what you want to see and overlook areas. Rewind, say that again. It's easy to see what you want to see and overlook areas. But by being disciplined about scrutinizing your actions and learning from mistakes, learning from failure, I look at failures are just footsteps in the right direction, right? To get to where what success looks like. You can become more self aware and improve your decision making skills. That's why it's important. Oftentimes, when I've looked at spreadsheets for hours and hours and hours, I would share them with folks on my team with a simple sentence that says, I've looked at this for hours, take another look at it for me and make sure I haven't missed anything because I've been so entrenched, right? But being real, and that's being realistic about your limitations. We all have limitations. We all need help, and we are not doing life alone. And that's a good way to become self aware, knowing your shortcomings and knowing when you need help, asking for help, and relying on that help, right? So, getting into the 5 ways for intuition in specific circumstances. Number 1, ooh, okay, here it comes. When it comes to making friends and falling in love, trust your first judgment. When it comes to making friends and falling in love, trust your first judgment. Trust your first thought, your gut instinct, because it never fails. Just think about it. Just go in your mind, think in your heart, pull up a memory of somebody that you encountered. And that still small voice said, heck to the no, no, no. They're not for you. They're not in your corner. They're not on your team. They don't want more for you than you want for yourself. They're not encouraging you. They're just trying to tear you down. They're in the comparison. They're jealous of you and don't want to admit that they're jealous, and they want to be a stumbling block for you. Your first mind said that, but you went down that road anyway. And then later on, only to find out to be heartbroken and disappointed that they weren't for you. They weren't really encouraging you, and they were looking for ways to tear you down. These initial impressions are often reliable. If you keep an open mind and look for the good in everyone, you will likely recognize the people who will enrich your life. Because those people often, they're mutually beneficial relationships. Now, I'm not talking transactional. Mutually beneficial means you add something to their life, they add something to your life, right? You are both walking away winners every time you all encounter one another. Number two, know when to stay silent. Mm-mm-mm. Know when to say nothing. For the sake of your relationships, it's often better to keep your hunches to yourself, even when they're accurate, or know the right timing. Again, that's listening to the small voice. Know when is the right time to say something. For example, your friend may not appreciate being reminded that her consumption of ice cream doubled after her divorce. At least not while she has that pint of Chunky Monkey Ben and Jerry's in her hand with the soup spoon going to town. Okay? Can you see that kind of hit a little personal close to home? At least wait until she finishes the ice cream, puts it back in the freezer, and sits down to continue the conversation. Then say something, but not when she's knee deep. I'm talking about elbows up in it, right? Just know when to say what you need to say and know how to say it, right? Number three, take pleasure in significant purchases. Enjoy it. For example, pick out a house you'll enjoy living in rather than getting distracted by real estate trends. You're likely to feel more satisfied in the long run. On the other hand, listen to the experts when you're making financial investments. So, when it comes to buying a house, buy what you want, right? Get what you want because ultimately you're going to be the one living in it. You're going to be the one paying a mortgage every month. And there is nothing worse than paying a bill every month for something that you don't like and you don't want to be in. That's not a good feeling. Number four, evaluate your fears. Evaluate your fears. To be fearful is normal, but evaluate the why and the root. Evolution makes us vulnerable to exaggerating fears with immediate and vivid consequences rather than more probable but subtler ones. Keep that in mind if you get more alarmed by killer bees than obesity. Let me run that back. If you're more concerned about killer bees, not that you shouldn't be, right? Than obesity, you got to evaluate your fears because obesity will shorten your lifespan and will take us out of here. Obesity leads to other medical conditions that can make our quality of life very poor. That can increase our medical expenses because we're taking pills and medications to fix things that could potentially be addressed by addressing the obesity. So make sure the fear is in the right place. And number five, and finally, listen to your conscience. Listen to the still small voice. Listen to Holy Spirit. Listen to your gut. Most healthy adults usually distinguish right from wrong spontaneously. You're on the right track if you feel comfortable with your actions and at ease with people knowing about them. When you feel at peace, that's a good sign and an indicator. If you're comfortable with your actions and comfortable with sharing those actions with people that you know, again, another indicator. So if you're in a relationship with someone that you can't or won't tell anybody about, that's a sign. Red flag, just as red as my lipstick and my nail polish. That is a sign. If you don't feel comfortable telling people, those in your inner circle, about who you're seeing, that's a problem. Something's wrong. You know something's wrong. And you don't want anybody else to call it to your attention. So that, listen, listen, Lucy, fix it, end it. Because if you can't talk about it, there's a reason for it, and get out. That's like the haunted house, the haunted movies, where you go into the house and the pictures are moving on the wall, or doors are opening by themselves, and you like, but this is my dream home, and you stay there anyway and wonder why you're being tortured. No, ma'am, no, sir. Leave. Exit stage left. For sale sign in the yard. Out. Get out. Listen to your conscience. Listen to your still small voice. Go ahead and play your hunches, as long as you also take the time to weigh the facts and test your conclusions. Your gut feeling always plays a big role in your relationships and decision making. So, becoming more aware of them and creating a process for listening to the still small voice will help you use your intuition more effectively. I hope you have been enlightened and encouraged, and found that this is some BS that will help you transform some of your obstacles into opportunities. Now, let's go into what I like, Proverbs and Pearls. 1 and 18. She works late into the night to make sure her business earns a profit, because she gets an idea in dreams and she wakes up and immediately begins to work on them and sees what has to happen and what she needs to put in place to make it happen. She's listening to that still small voice, to Holy Spirit speak to her, to let her know what her next step is. The same happens for you. So ponder this question today. What have been the results in your life when you have not followed your first mind or intuition? Now, for sure, that's some belief system right there that will help you re engineer your BS to transform life's obstacles into opportunities. What's happened historically in the past when you have not listened to that still small voice? If you're anything like me, it hasn't been good. So today, you have learned some skills, some examples on the power of intuition and putting that to work for you. Have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you next episode.